Longtime listeners of the show understand what a delight it is for me to bring in the next great point guard headed to the pros. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about her off the ball. We'll talk about the fact that, yes, she is from the great state of New Jersey. Hannah Hidalgo is here. Locked on Women's Basketball starts now.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball. I'm your host, Howard Megdal. I want to thank you for making us your first listen every day. Over 250,000 of you listening in November 2024 alone, showing up for us the way we show up for you 6 days a week. And of course, it is not just me, it is the incredible team across the board at thenexthoops.com. We have over 100 reported pieces every month. Make sure you're subscribing, $9 a month, $72 a year, and join the over 25 million of us who have been reading The Next here at thenexthoops.com or in your email. We've at The Next had the privilege of being able to cover, talk about, write about Hannah Hidalgo, the phenom out of Merchantville, New Jersey. Would you claim Merchantville as your primary stomping grounds when people say, "Where are
Yes.
you from?"
Yes. Merchantville, yes.
I love it. I love it. Just a critically important part of the story, and we'll get into it, is the Jersey toughness. Hannah Hidalgo is somebody who, and we're going to get into the numbers, talking about that. We're going to talk about the ways in which she's worked to get even better. But I want to start with something that, to me, defines you as a player. In the game against Syracuse on Sunday afternoon, Notre Dame won 93-62, ahead by 20 plus points, late third quarter. You are back out there. Syracuse has what would have been an easy layup most times. You do not break stride. You do not slow down. You contest it. You come at the other direction always. I'm wondering for you, somebody who does not take off a play, where does that come from, and when did that start for you?
I guess you could just say that's that dog in me. I take pride in my defense. I try and make that my staple. I think it started from when I was younger. Again, just being the smallest person on the court, I had to bring something different to the game, and so I really always have taken pride in my defense, and it's something that a lot of players don't really like to do. They don't want to, hustle and do like the dirty work. A lot of players you won't see that, and so I try and make that kind of my staple and try not to take any plays off.
It is manifesting itself in all of these different ways for the numbers. Notre Dame, a contender for the national title without question. And a lot of that seems to have come from what you're doing on the court. We're going to get into more of that in segment 2, segment 3, because I'm fascinated by it. And again, point of personal privilege as the host. The difference between the good and the great players are the ones who start at a high level and then find ways of getting even better. So we're going to get into that. But I also want to talk about the NIL world that we are living in right now. You signed a deal with New Era. You were the face of Notre Dame athletics. Notre Dame obviously has a bit of a sports tradition, you might say, going back quite some time.
Yeah.
And obviously a tradition in women's basketball too, but to be the athlete selected to be the face of Notre Dame athletics in that deal, how much did that resonate with you as a significant moment in women's basketball, to be able to be the one who was able to do that at that school?
Yeah, I think it's honestly just such a blessing to be in the position that I'm in. Honestly, with this new NIL space, it's so big and it's such a monumental movement. I was, in high school when it, just started to become something, and to now see how far it's grown is something that's so tremendous because, we weren't able to make money off of our name and, do things like that. And so, us bringing so much revenue to the schools, I think athletes deserve to be able to make money off of who they are. And so just me being one of the faces is honestly, again, truly a blessing because I'm able to, make money off of kind of who I am.
Who you are and what you do is something that for college athletes, you kind of had to put in the time and hope that down the line there'd be a potential financial payoff that had to be undue stress on so many athletes. Is it significant to you as you think through sort of your trajectory, your arc, and certainly the WNBA is, clearly waiting there, ready for you when you get there. But does it make it easier to have a sense of like, all right, I can find security along the way, and it's not just all sort of like end of the rainbow the way it has been and the way it's been defined for so many athletes for so long.
Yeah. I honestly, it's something that's so big to be able to make money now, because of course growing up, I heard like WNBA players, they don't make any money now, and to see how far it's come to where now WNBA players are making a lot more money than what they used to, and now even college, women hoops, they're able to make a lot more money now just off of, NIL deals and commercials and things like that. And it's honestly just so inspiring to be able to see how far we've grown kind of in that aspect.
And by the time you get to the WNBA, it'll be a new collective bargaining agreement, and that'll all be changed. It's all
Yeah.
happening so fast and at long overdue, but at the right time, as
Yeah.
far as I'm concerned. And it's wonderful to see. In terms of the NIL experience itself, just even beyond the financial thing, how much fun is it to be able to have different brands come to you, sort of have those conversations, just like as a person? I'm just wondering what that experience is like for you.
It's honestly so fun because you get reached out by many different products, many different brands, and they're just like, "Hey, like I want to send you some products for you to try out." And so it's like these companies that you love, that you purchase, that you buy, like are just sending you free products and like stuff like that. I get so much like skincare or like candy, like food, clothes, like so many things to try out. And honestly, it's so fun. Not just of course the money aspect of it, but to just be able to try out a whole bunch of new products.
Getting the chance to represent some South Bend, Indiana companies is a part of the overall work as well. Are you going to expand your New Jersey reach when it comes to that? And is there a particular hometown place that you'd love to add to the mix?
Well, first off, yes, I think it's very important that I connect with the locals here in South Bend, and of course, I have connected with a local jeweler here called like Alley on the Boulevard. So, her with my earrings, she's local, and just being able to kind of connect with her, so we're both able to benefit off of each other, which is really cool in and of itself. But of course, I would like to expand more. And kind of reach, different parts, different states and stuff like that, especially New Jersey, Philly, New York area would be so something that's so cool.
I'm just amplifying. I'm just letting people know here in Jersey, you need to do this. You need to partner with Hannah Hidalgo. The sooner the better is my opinion about that. Last thing before we get into the basketball side of things is that there's been, I think, a recognition, certainly among those who are watching closely, of sort of where you are occupying space in the sport. And I'm wondering if there's been a moment, an accolade, a part of that where it really kind of took you aback to say, wow, I've gotten to this point this soon. Just for those who may not know, I can't imagine if you listen to this program, you don't, you're 9 games into your sophomore season.
Yeah. I would say my recent goal, my 1,000 point goal, it's the fastest that's happened in school history, and so to just be one to be able to set that record is honestly something that's, of course, I feel like it hasn't even set in yet that like, hey, like this is a record that I set, and I feel like of course in a couple of years I'll be able to look back and say, oh, like this is a record that I set, and just waiting for the next generation to kind of break that record. But I feel like that's probably the most recent record that I'm just like, wow, like that's something that's awesome.
Man, you made it hard for them to break for those who are coming after. I mean, record was doing it in 60 games. You did it in 44. Just unbelievable to see. Hannah Hidalgo, so much to talk about when it comes to the basketball part of things. So back in segment 2, we're going to talk about that. Segment 3, get into some of the way freshman year went well, how it ended, the way you've used it, all coming up. I'm Howard Megdal. You're listening to Locked On Women's Basketball. First, this is going to be a tough one, but here we go. Locked On Women's Basketball is brought to you by FanDuel. Hannah, are you an Eagles fan? Were you raised and born as an Eagles fan for
Yeah, my
football?
dad's a big Eagles fan, so of course I don't really like keep up with it, but of course if I see them play, I'm always gonna root for
You're so lucky. I've raised my kids as Giants fans, and it's a very sad way to do it.
them.
But Locked On Women's Basketball. It's brought to you by FanDuel. They have a deal with NFL action right now that you can use. You bet $5, and if you win, you get $150 in bonus bets if you win. Word to the wise, bet on Hannah's family's team. Do not bet on the Giants. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, so you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and say, oh, wow, the Eagles have won 9 in a row, and the Giants have not won, I think, since 2017. So just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Get those $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. A lot of sad people in my family these days, Hannah. But we are back with the great Hannah Hidalgo from Notre Dame. And we're going to get nerdy. And I want to start with something you mentioned, oh, I'm the smallest one on the court usually. So I need to find ways to stand out. Well, the obvious answer that you'd think is, all right, smallest one on the court, you're going to struggle to finish at the rim. But of course, those who have seen you play for, let's say, 30 seconds even, understand that that is not the case. You were north of 62% finishing at the rim last year. This year specifically, and you go to CBB Analytics and you dive in, your shot charts are these like things of beauty, because now, last year, teams tried to force you to your left. You were still at 40%, finishing at the rim on the left side, 57% from the right side. Now you're 57% from the right side, but you're north of 60% from the left side. Take me through how that work came about and what you identified that allowed you to make that change.
Oh yeah, those are some pretty decent numbers now. But I think I realized definitely in the NC State game that I had a lot of work to do, especially with using my left hand. When they realized that my strong suit is my right hand and I like to go right, they kind of started trying to take that away. And not saying that I can't go left or I wasn't able to, but just that comfort factor. I wasn't as comfortable going left as I was right, of course. So during the summer, I took all summer to just work on my left hand. I know me and my position coach were in the gym working on my left hand every single day. Me and my dad, we were in the gym every single day, just constantly working on my left hand. And so it's not so much of I can't do it, but more of that confidence piece, and just constantly being in the gym just has given me that confidence to be able to start using my left again just as much as my right.
And it's early statistically, but it is worth pointing out. Is it pretty good? 66.7%. The national average left-handed at the rim is 38.6%. So again, it's just at this elite number. And the similar number when you look at your three-point shooting early on. And again, you come in, and if you think of your freshman year as a floor, you're 34% from three-point range last year, which is really solid for, especially given all the ways in which you were a two-way player, but you obviously have taken some further emphasis on it. What did that look like? What was the work like? Obviously getting shots up, but where were you putting them? How many shots are you putting up a day to get the three to where it is now, which is almost at 40%?
It wasn't anything specific. I try not to stay too much into like a routine. It was just constantly putting up threes. Those were my two biggest focus was improving my left hand and also just being more consistent in my 3-point shot, while also trying to extend that range. But the main focus being more consistent from the three. And I think we spent a lot of time not only working on my left, but working on being more consistent in that 3-point shot. So it was just something that was, every day, maybe 2 times a day, just constantly being on the gun, or, just constantly just getting up multiple reps with threes.
You're getting more attempts per game as you're doing it as well. I just wonder, did you start to feel it immediately in games? Does that work pay off right away?
I feel like I saw it in the summer when I started doing runs. I just tried to put in what I was working on, tried to put that into the runs. And, just seeing the ball go through, it definitely, gave me confidence like, hey, this is something I worked on. Like, now it's starting to fall. And, in games, kind of seeing my shot fall also definitely also gives me confidence to be able to come down when I'm in transition and not try and get all the way to the basket, but, pull a three. So it's definitely helped me a lot confidence wise.
How do you measure the success with the things you work on? Are you looking at numbers? Are you looking at feel? Like, how do you go about figuring out, all right, I put the work in for this and I want to improve it in this way, right? How do I know it's worked?
I feel like just the confidence piece. I try not to look at numbers because then I feel like I would worry too much about the numbers and how well I'm doing, how efficient I'm doing, how much I'm scoring. So I try not to look at, that piece, but just having that comfort to be able to do so is something that, I might not have had last year when I was, driving left or, taking a pull up. It might have been like I might have been thinking about it while I was doing it. And now, it's second nature. It's no thought when I'm going into the game and I'm driving left trying to finish, or, I'm coming in transition, I'm pulling a three, like things like that. I think it's just a confidence piece.
It's so interesting to me to hear you talk about confidence because one of the things that really pops about your game is you seem to have this fearlessness with everything that it is that you're doing. Is that something where it's I fake it till you make it? Is that something where you come in and there's even more confidence? And what is the manifestation of that? Like you said, you were so often the smallest one on the court. How do you bring that to the table?
I feel like for a confidence thing, I think it requires a lot of, being in the gym, putting in that work. I know I feel like I struggled with confidence when I was younger, again, being the
Hmm.
smallest person on the court. And I used to ask my cousin, like, how do you have so much confidence to be able to, drive and score so well? And he was just like, you got to be in the gym. Like, I just work at it. And when it's something you work at, and you kind of, perfect your game and you perfect your craft and you keep working on it, then, you have the confidence to do so. I know I was watching something on Kyrie, and it was just like he practiced this move like 100 times, so that like when he went in the game, he was comfortable doing so. And I think it just requires you getting in the gym and constantly putting in that work.
I've never been able to experience firsthand what it's like to play at the level you play at. So I'm really curious about this. There was a couple of back-to-back plays that I was watching when I was going over film. And in back-to-back plays, there was one where you go straight to the rim and finish at the rim on the left-hand side, what we were talking about before. And the very next possession, this was in the Syracuse game, I believe, it was a teardrop where you make the decision to sort of stop and pop a few feet out. And as you're doing that, are you even thinking about it? Are you, is there sort of a process of, I see the defender here, I see this here, or is it just because you've done it, because the repetition is there, it's just, what to do in that moment?
Yeah, I think I think it's a matter of, second nature. I think the reps that you like put in, it just comes automatically in the game. So when you see the defender kind of step up, I feel like for me, I don't even think of, kind of what I'm going to do next, whether that's, a euro or if that's a floater or a short jump shot. I feel like I don't even think about what I'm going to do next. It just happens automatically. It just comes with the game. I try not to think about my game and, let it flow. Because if I think about my game, trying too hard and then I get into my own head. So I feel like it's just a matter of kind of letting the game come to me and, letting whatever happens happens.
The luxury that your team now has is that you can play off the ball more, given this backcourt, which I don't know how you can argue that there's a better backcourt in the country than Notre Dame. And so, how much do you enjoy that, having sort of that extra ability to process where you're not necessarily having to be the primary ball handler the way you were last year?
Yeah, of course. I think it takes a lot of pressure off of me, especially from last year being the primary ball handler. But, when you have a guard like Olivia or you have someone like Sony,
Right.
they take a lot of attention. So it's harder for, the opponent because, a lot of teams don't have, three top guards who can all handle the ball, like who can all create plays and create for themselves. And so it makes it a lot harder for teams to guard. So it just takes a lot of pressure off of me. And if I'm not scoring, I know Liv or Sony or someone else will be able to step up. Or, if they're not having their game, they can count on me or, somebody else on another guard, somebody else on the team to be able to kind of step up and handle those shoes.
Olivia's shooting 46% from three. You guys as a team are shooting 38%. Sonia's actually only at 34, but we know she hit 40% of her threes last year.
Mm-hmm.
There's no good answer when you
Yeah.
guys are swinging the ball around, and it just seems like there's an effortlessness to finding one another. It
Mm-hmm.
really, if you haven't had a chance to see Notre Dame play live, I can't stress enough to you audience members. Make sure you go and do it. I want to talk bigger picture about the season, this incredible team, how you are thinking about your future, which is just limitless. Much more with Hannah Hidalgo right after this. I'm Howard Megdal, and you are listening to Locked On Women's Basketball. Locked On Women's Basketball is brought to you by Game Time. And I have a basketball junkie who lives in my house. She is 10 years old. She loves to come to the games. My daughter, when she is not helping us over at the Next doing social media work, she wants to come and watch. When Hannah's in town, when the top players are in town, she wants to see them. Game Time is an app that helps her do it. The Game Time app doesn't just give you a sense of where you're going to sit. It gives you a 360-degree view of your view from that seat. That's very important to my daughter. That's very important to people who care about the game the way all of us do. Game Time helps you do it. How do you do it? Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. I'd imagine there'll be some tough tickets coming up for this Thursday, this matchup against UConn. And I want to talk about, and I don't know whether you think of it in this way or not, but again, the elite players that we're seeing right now, to see you have the chance to go up against Rory Harmon early in the season, a lot of people view it as a way to kind of measure where you are. Spoiler alert, for those who didn't see, you scored 30. Very nice. And now you have a chance to do this, obviously, against, and it'll be interesting, actually, matchup wise, against UConn. Obviously, they've got Paige Beckers, AZ Fudd, there's some different guard ideas they can throw at opponents, KK Arnold as well. It'll be fascinating to see. When you have those kind of elite matchups, do you find yourself sort of rising to the occasion and thinking about it in that way?
I think naturally I do. I, rise to the occasion. I try and have that mindset for every game going out, just knowing that, every team is going to bring, their best game when they play us. But, but especially these, top teams, and especially a team like UConn, just with the rivalry that we have, so I try and rise to like the occasion of, those games. I try and bring that energy for my team, knowing that I'm that vocal leader for them. So I try and bring it, especially for those games.
You played 45 minutes in that game against Texas.
Yes.
You did not come out of the game. I do. I know you don't want to think about numbers or measure it. People need to understand you had 4 assists, you had 3 steals, you had 8 rebounds in that game, and do not come out in addition to scoring 30, in addition to playing elite defense the way you always do. Do you, at least when it's over, look at the box score and say, oh my God, look at what I just did? I think I would probably only look at box scores if I were you.
With the time I played, yes, I do look at the time. Like when I saw, I was like, man, 45 minutes of basketball, just nonstop. Both me and Sony, we were looking at just how much time we were in the game. We were just like, man, just playing 45 minutes of basketball, and not even just like, any team that we were blowing out. Like this is like a top Power 5 team that was top 3, top 4, top 5 in the rankings. So I do look at that, and it definitely takes a toll, especially after the game. But I feel like in the game, I'm not really worried about, how much time I'm playing. It's just like, like I'm trying to win, especially in like moments like that when it's such a close game. And, I'm trying to encourage my team, like, look, we got 5 more minutes left. We need everything we got, like things like that. When my adrenaline is just going, it just happens. And then afterwards, I'm like, I can feel that 45 minutes of play.
You'll have a team that has an opportunity to do some special things. And the same, without question, was true last year. This was a team, and again, one of the strangest games. There's not even a play away for me to talk about what the officials did during that game. So I'm not even going to go there, but it was absurd. And it felt like we didn't get a proper sense of what Notre Dame was last year, how far they can go. I have to imagine that, and I know you were very upset after that game was over, that you use it as motivation, as fuel. Can you kind of take me through how you process something like that? Because I can't imagine you've lost. I know you didn't lose very much here. Like,
Mhm.
and how do you use it in terms of the offseason? Do you flush it? Do you go back and watch? What did you do?
Yeah, I think after that game, I think the next day I got back in the gym. Just working, especially being a freshman and being taken out of the game like that is something, of course, I've never experienced before, especially considering that, I had my nose ring in all season and it was, never an issue. But I think that was just, kind of motivation of, we have all these phenomenal players that's coming back next year, and it just was something to look forward to. Like, we have a lot of work that we have to do. We have a lot of girls that are coming back, that are coming in, freshmen. Like, it was just something to look forward to for next season. It was going to be exciting. So, of course, I was devastated about probably like the first week going after it. I wasn't watching any basketball, anything, but but it was just my motivation. So I was right back in the gym working on my craft.
I am not surprised to hear it. The work has clearly paid off and then some. Do you have a next step, a next goal individually? I know as a team you want ultimately to win it all, but I'm wondering for you, is there sort of, as you're in the lab, the next thing for you?
I feel like the next thing for me, like working on my craft, I think is just continuing to improve my 3-point range. And I think getting more consistent and then extending it more, because a lot of my shots are on the line. So just being able to take a step back, which I think would just be so much harder to guard, especially for people to have to run out at me far. And then, I be able to, make a move and drive, get all the way to the basket, or, take a pull up. So I think extending my range is something that's going to be dangerous.
And even harder to guard Hannah Hidalgo. Good luck to you, rest of college basketball. Well, Hannah, thank you so much for your time. Always appreciate getting the chance to catch up with you. To our listeners, thank you for making us your first listen every day. We'll be back with you tomorrow, as we are 6 days a week. Until then, I'm Howard Megdal, wishing all of you a wonderful day.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.